Welcome! This video shows ways to analyze increasing the expected income of your crop plan. As a reminder, this is step 3 of the planning process. Step 3 has 3 paths: analyzing ways to increase income, analyzing and managing risk, and analyzing and managing asset use. In this video, we're heading down the path of finding ways to increase income. Estimated income and other outcomes are driven by management decisions. Profitability, risk, and asset use are all related. Every action to increase profitability has a reaction, or two. Increasing income causes changes to the risk profile and asset use. There are 6 management levers that can be pulled to analyze increasing income that are under your control. These levers can be pulled individually or in combination to change a strategy's estimated income. Depending on your operation, some paths may be more feasible or desirable than others. Let's look at each. One way you may be able to increase expected income is by changing crop limits to plant more land in more profitable crops and less land in less profitable crops. To check this, after you generate a baseline strategy, click on Crop Acreage Limits to see if any crop acreage limits are impacting expected income. If a maximum acreage limit is reached, or nearly reached, then increasing the maximum acreage limit to allow more acreage to be assigned to the crop will likely increase expected income. Similarly, if a minimum crop acreage limit is reached, decreasing the minimum acreage limit permits less acreage to be assigned to the crop, which will likely increase expected income. There are 2 ways to change crop acreage limits. One way is to go back to the crop limits page and change the crop acreage limits that are holding back expected income and reanalyze your farm model. The other way is to use the sensitivity analysis tools covered in a previous training video. With these tools, you can analyze changing a single crop limit multiple times or multiple crop limits at the same time. Let's look at planting more cotton using the single resource sensitivity analysis. Increase the maximum crop limit for cotton in 5 steps, with each step being 100 acres. Click Analyze. Planting profits is finding the most profitable crop mix for each step change of the crop limit. All other parameters are being held constant. Click View to see the set of points that are the most profitable crop mixes as cotton acreage is allowed to increase. As expected, there's more cotton. You can see the crops that cotton replaced to increase profitability. This strategy required more working capital to earn the additional estimated income. Is it worth it? That depends. Let's save this one. Compare some of the other output measures to the baseline strategy. In addition to requiring more working capital, more irrigation water is required. Also, some risk measures have changed. Make sure there's enough working capital to increase as acreage of crops with higher production costs is allowed to increase. This is similar for other critical resources used by higher margin crops. If you're planting by fields, remember that crop acreage limits and crop field choices all work together, so make sure they are not in conflict and there are enough fields and acreage that can be assigned to the crop as a crop limit is changed. Also, minimum acreage limits for one or more crops may have to be relaxed to allow more acreage to be assigned to the more profitable crop. If you're planning by fields, another way you may be able to increase expected income is by changing crop and field choices to provide more flexibility. This creates more possible crop and field combinations for planting profits to search and maybe find a more profitable mix. To try this, review each field and confirm all possible crops that can be planted in that field. Add more crop choices to one or more fields based on what's possible and practical. reanalyze the farm model. In this example, the crop mix and crop and field assignments have changed. Expected income increased. Changing crop field choices in order to increase income may require changing crop acreage limits and/or increasing critical resources. If you're planning by fields, another way you may be able to increase expected income is by splitting one or more of your fields. Depending on your operation, it may not be practical to split fields. Irrigation operations and other physical field constraints may make it difficult or simply not worth it. Operational inefficiencies may make splitting some fields impractical. Also, some crop combinations may be incompatible with others due to adjacent chemical applications or other proximity issues. And there may be still other reasons. But if you'd like to consider splitting fields, here are a couple of ways to analyze this. One way is to switch to planning by acres. Keep the resources, crop limits, and everything else the same. Look at the difference in estimated income to decide if it's worth looking closer. Analyze this first by noting the estimated income from the field-based strategy. Then switch the planning model to acres. Analyze the model. Note the difference in estimated income and crop acreage between the two strategies. If the difference in estimated income is materially higher, for example 10 or 20%, it may warrant taking a closer look. To do this, switch back to the field model. Select which fields to split and create new fields, and reallocate the acreage between them. Set the crop and field combinations for the new fields and reanalyze. Keep all other variables constant to make valid comparisons among strategies. You may need to adjust your crop acreage limits. If you're planning by fields, remember that crop acreage limits and crop field choices all work together. Make sure they are not in conflict, or this may negate opportunities to increase your estimated income by splitting fields. If there is a material difference among fields and forecasted yields, production costs, or crop resource, this can be modeled using field differences. Increasing critical resources will normally increase expected income. Land and capital are the two required resources. One or both almost always limit profitability. There may be others. To see this, go to the strategy dashboard. Look at resources to see which ones are impacting estimated income. If a resource is critical, increasing the amount available will increase expected income if there are no other limitations. Similarly, decreasing a critical resource will likely decrease expected income. When increasing acreage, additional working capital and other resources are likely needed and may become critical as available acreage increases. There are two ways to change critical resources. One way is to go back to the Resources page. Change the resource amounts that are holding back expected income and reanalyze your model. The other way is to use the sensitivity analysis tools. With these tools, you can analyze changing a single resource multiple times or multiple resources at the same time. Let's look at increasing working capital using the Single Resource Sensitivity Analysis tool. Increase working capital in 5 steps of $25,000. Click Analyze. Click View to see the set of points that are the most profitable crop mixes as working capital is increased. As expected, profitability increased. Look at the additional working capital required to earn the additional estimated income and determine if this is worth it. Let's save this strategy to compare the crop mix and some of the other output measures to the baseline strategy. Let's view and compare our current strategies. In addition to using more working capital, more irrigation water is required. Some risk measures have changed too, since the crop mix has changed. Remember, when planning by fields, resources, crop acreage limits, and crop field choices all interact. Changing resources to increase expected income may increase working capital exposure and may impact a strategy's risk profile and asset use. In addition to comparing expected incomes across strategies, compare risk profiles, including using scenario analysis, to get the rest of the story. You may need to change crop acreage limits or crop and field choices, or both, in order to increase income by increasing resources. After reanalyzing your strategy, check resource use and repeat this process systematically if it is going in a favorable direction. Later, when we look at ways to analyze risk, we'll come back to changing critical resources. But in that case, we'll decrease resources such as working capital to show ways to decrease exposure. Another way to increase income is to increase forward sales for one or more crops, assuming good prices are being offered. Forward sales are normally considered a risk management tool, but forward sales can be profit makers. For example, growing special varieties, meeting key delivery dates, providing high-quality product can all command premiums. In planting profits, there are two types of forward sales: firm and proposed. For firm forward sales, planting profits will assign the required number of acres to that crop to meet the contract amount. A crop for a proposed forward sale will only be selected if it is more profitable than a competing crop and increases estimated income. We'll assume the forward sale opportunity is for specialty corn. It requires on-farm storage. The price offered is $6.75 per bushel. The quantity is 30,000 bushels. Forecasted yield is 165 bushels. So this will require about 180 acres. We're trying to decide whether to take the contract or use the acreage, working capital, etc. for another crop. To do this, create a crop called specialty corn by going to the crop master. Then go back and enter the crop information. Our yield estimate for the specialty corn is 165 bushels per acre. Our forecasted price for open market specialty corn is $5.50 per bushel. This is a placeholder since there's no desire to have any open specialty corn. If any specialty corn is selected, it will be forward sold. For any production costs, we'll use $600 per acre. Go through the sequence of pages. Mark all crop and field combinations and resource use. The specialty corn uses on-farm crop storage in the amount of the yield, that is 165 bushels per acre. On the forward sale page, the contract price is $6.75 per bushel and the quantity is 30,000 bushels. Select Proposed for a proposed forward sale. Next, go to the crop limits page and set the maximum acreage limit 0 for the specialty corn. This will prevent any non-contracted specialty corn from being allocated acreage. If you would like to consider some non-contracted specialty corn, set the maximum acreage limit to allow some non-contracted or open crop into the strategy. Analyze the strategy. Compare strategies with the contract and without the contract. Estimated income is higher with the contract, given the forecasts. In this case, under a low corn price scenario, the strategy with the contract has higher estimated income too. Wow, 2 for 2. Lower risk and higher expected income. That's nice when you can find those opportunities. Of course, you still have to deliver on the crop. In the video, Analyzing and Managing Risk, we'll take a closer look at using forward sales as a risk management tool. Add another more profitable crop to the mix if this is an option. This approach is similar to adding a new forward sale, which was just covered. The difference is that in this case, there is no price certainty. To add a new crop, go to the Crops page and select the crop to add, or go to the Crop Master to create a new crop. We're going to add 10 acres of pumpkins. Enter the expected yields, prices, and production costs. Look at the per acre estimated income. See how it compares to the other crops. Click through the rest of the pages and add required information. Since we're planning by fields, create a field for the pumpkins. Analyze the strategy. Compare strategies with and without the pumpkins. Estimated income is higher. In the video, Analyzing and Managing Risk, we'll take a closer look at diversification and high-risk crops. Here is a checklist to use to mark which of the ways to analyzing increasing income look most fruitful. You can download the checklist from the Learning Center. There are 2 more training videos that cover Step 3, Analyzing and Managing Risk, and Analyzing and Managing Asset Use. Thank you for your time. For more information, please go to www.plantingprofits.com.